Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and this is episode 143 on July 7th, recorded on July 7th. I'm sorry, July 27th, 2016. And if you want to see all of my shows, Walk in the Park shows, you can go to my video blog, walkinthepark.tv, and they'll all be there. And this one ought to be up, well, this will first be showing on Thursday, July 28th at 9 p.m. on Channel 13 in Ithaca, New York, public access TV, Time Warner Cable. And also by then it should be up online, this particular show. So if you want to see it online, and it'll also be showing at other times. You can see the schedule on my video blog up, and you look in the TV show tab up at the top of the page. Okay, so this week, it's been really dry, hasn't it? A lot of people have been noticing that we don't have much water in our waterfalls or on our lawns or in our farmer fields, and we're in a severe drought now. So we're gonna go around a few parks in the Finger Lakes region here, and then zoom down to Ithaca, because that's where our base is here at Pegasus Public Access Studios in Ithaca, New York. And look at various parks. Let's see, what do we got coming up first here? We're going to go to Taughannock Falls. So if you go up the west shore of the lake, you can see where Taughannock Falls is. And this is for people who don't know the area so well. I will be referring to this map so that you know where I'm taking you. So we're going to take you to Taughannock Falls. This was July 24th, so that was last Saturday, this being Wednesday. This picture was taken by photographer Joe Scaglione, and he does a lot of beautiful stuff, including drone photography of landscapes and so forth. But he took this picture and posted it and said he had never seen it so dry. And I don't think I've seen it any drier than this myself. So look, there's no water pouring over the falls. It's a little bit wet, maybe from a dribble that you need to see with a pair of binoculars, perhaps. So here's a picture taken, let's see, when was that? My notes here. This was May 26, 2004, taken of the falls from the South Rim Trail. This is actually a view I don't think you can quite get anymore. I think it's overgrown with vegetation, but a beautiful peek at the falls. Obviously, lots of water in it. So usually in the spring, we have a lot of water in the falls, but from the end of June on, or even June, through the fall, you never know. It could be wet or it could be dry. And so then we'll go to the next year, 2005. This is August 25th, 2005. And that's about the same as Joe's picture here. Very similar. So I remember looking at the top of the waterfall. You couldn't see any water falling, you can see this wet. But I remember looking at the top of the waterfall, and there was a dribble coming off. I could look with my binoculars, I should say. And also there's a tiny little stream up there. So it's been really dry here in the Finger Lakes and in New York State in general. And in fact, we're in a drought watch, they call it. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has announced a drought watch. Here's a map showing just the month of June, percent of normal rainfall. See if I can pull that up here in my notes. Yeah, and we're right in that red area, right in the middle. And Tompkins County is right in the middle there. Well, actually, that's Schuyler County. That's in the middle of the bottom red area. So the whole area around here is very dry, much of Tompkins County. That means we've been getting between 10 and 25% of normal rainfall for June. So we'll talk about that a little bit more here. So we're going to look at the gorges now. We're going to go to various gorges and see how they look at different times during this drought. So first we'll go to Cascadilla Gorge. And we're looking at an aerial photograph by my friend Bill Hecht, who takes a lot of aerial photographs of the area. And this is looking at Cornell University on East Hill. And on the right-hand side, you see that crease coming down that separates Cornell from College Town, which is on the extreme right. And that is Cascadilla Gorge, Cascadilla Glen. And they have a lovely trail that's recently been refurbished by Cornell Plantations, which is responsible for the gorge. So I was in there last weekend, I think it was. Yeah, and I took some some shots and some videos. So here's a little bit of water coming over one of the waterfalls, but I also have some moving images to show you on that. So we'll get right to that now. Okay, so yeah, just a shadow of its former self. But there's more water in there. There might be more water in there than there is in Taughannock, although it's hard to say because Taughannock is so far away from the overlook. It could be the same amount of water. It just doesn't look like much from afar. So we're going to look here at this poster that I found on a bulletin board in the park, an upper section of Buttermilk Falls State Park, and explains the drought to a certain degree here. I'll try to read off what that says. Many of our visitors have noticed that our parks seem to be extremely dry right now. On the 15th of July this year, the Department of Environmental Conservation issued a, quote, drought watch for all of New York State, the first we've had in 14 years. There are no mandatory regulations in place to restrict water use, but conserving water is certainly encouraged, even when that's not a drought, when there's not a drought. Though the whole state is dry, this area is especially dry. We had less than 1 inch of rainfall estimated during June and early July, and are considered to be in a severe drought. So, so if this went on all year, we might start looking like this. This is the Sonoran Desert in Tucson, Arizona, and the definition of as a desert is less than 10 inches of rain per year. So if we had like 10 inches of rain or less per year here, we might end up having a different ecology, like a more of a desert ecology than we have. So I've noticed that some of the plants in the woods and some of the trees are doing a triage with their, as it were, with their twigs and leaves, and they're abandoning some of their twigs and leaves to survive the drought. So they're having a rough time. So I'm not so much in touch with agriculture, but I know that's a big issue too. And a lot of people are having problems with their wells. So, well, now we're going to go to another park, Buttermilk Falls. That's right below the star that indicates Ithaca on our regional map here. And I was down there the other day at the swimming area, and it was closed. The swimming area has not been open except on weekends, Saturday and Sunday. That's what the people in the park office told me. And that's been the case for the past few years. I've had different explanations given to me, but they said there was issues with the water quality and so forth. But I was told that that there's a shortage of lifeguards. There was last year anyway, so maybe that's the explanation this year, that we only have swimming at Robert Treman State Park and at Taughannock Falls State Park, and only on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday at Buttermilk Falls. So it's too bad. It would be great if we'd be able to have swimming here all week, because it's the easiest park to get to. You can get here on the city bus, I think. So yeah, you can, and that would be fun. But all right, so we're going to take a look at the Buttermilk Gorge, and we're going to take a walk up in Buttermilk Gorge. We go up the Gorge Trail next to the nearly dry waterfall. Yeah, I had this picture to show how little water there is in that. This was actually after we had some rain. I think that I might have taken this picture yesterday. Anyway, I hiked up the Gorge Trail. It's a very beautiful trail next to what's left of the waterfall. And there you go. This is a typical thing to see on a hot summer day, especially when the swimming is closed down there, is people flood into the gorge and go swimming into the potholes or plunge pools, we call them, in the gorge, the base of waterfalls and other spots in the gorge where there is a pool and you can dive in nice cool water. Sometimes people cliff dive, all very illegal, and there have been people fined, people thrown out, and people have died. Particularly in this pool, which is up in the Pinnacle Rock area in the upper end of the gorge. This is a very deep pool. People dive into this, jump into this from heights, and you can see the water clarity is not very good. It's there may have a lot of algae in the water. There may be some sediment suspended in there. So even if this were the guarded swimming area, they might not have swimming because the water clarity is so low. So that's one of the reasons they closed swimming. In fact, Robert Treman State Park swimming yesterday, I believe it was closed. It was closed on this day. I took the picture anyway. It was closed because we had rain the day before, and they had to check the water quality, and it could wash a lot of stuff down, and wasn't, I guess, satisfactory. Plus, if you get this turbidity. So those are the two main reasons they close. Water quality and the coliform count. They have to test the bacteria every day. And turbidity, that is how clear or turbid, if it's turbid, that means it's cloudy with suspended material. And that means a lifeguard couldn't find someone if they went under. In fact, in this pool, this particular pool we're talking about here, I don't know, between 15 and 20 years ago, there was a young man, an 18-year-old fellow from Elmira, was there with his friends, and he dove into this pool, hit his head on a rock, and went down and drowned. And that was quite a emotional recovery by the Gorge Ranger. He was very upset about that, and did not like pulling bodies out. He'd been to Vietnam. He didn't want to see any more dead bodies. So these are not safe places to swim because there's no lifeguard. But I see whole families up there, and families are confident their kids are going to be safe. But especially the out-of-towners that don't know it can get into trouble. So here's the bottom of that sign. Let's take a look, see if I can read that to you. Here, I go to my notes here. Coming up. There we go. Although this makes our lawns brown and our waterfalls a little less dramatic, the gorge trails are as stunning as ever, and the decreased water flow exposes more of the extraordinary rock formations beneath. Look for clues about how the gorges were formed, like these plunge pools, smooth, round holes in the streams. This shows you where a waterfall used to be before it eroded backward farther into the gorge. These plunge pools may look like great swimming holes, but they're actually very unsafe to swim in. Please stick to the designated swimming areas in each park to escape from the heat. Well, that means Treman and Taughannock any day, and then Buttermilk on the weekends. So let's go up in the gorge and look at some of these amazing pools that they're talking about here. See, the very little water. Sometimes this whole area is awash with waterfall. But now you can see the plunge pool where the waterfall, the main force of the water, has polished out this hole. And what happens is that rocks get down in there and they get rolled around by the power of the falling water, and they grind out these holes. So it's pretty neat. These potholes are plunge pools. See, there's a pothole there that isn't even near the ledges, although perhaps the water comes down and still rolls rocks around down in there. So also when there's not a lot of water flow, you get a lot of still water in these pools, and you can get some beautiful reflections. Makes for some great photography. This is up by the Pinnacle Rock area. There's a neat pool there in the lower right. I love that pool. It's so odd. There's no waterfall associated with it, and it looks like the bottom of a big plunge pool from hundreds or thousands, probably thousands of years ago, and the rock's been worn away, the waterfall's gone, but the pool is still there. Here's Pinnacle Rock that towers above it about 40 feet, and that's one of my favorite spots in the gorge. So now we're going to look at this pool. This is in that same area, and normally there's a lot of water coming over from the right, but that's all that's coming over now. And when there's a whole lot of water, it actually bashes around and polishes that whole area on the lower left that's all worn out there, and it's quite a scene. Someday I'll show you a picture of when that's really roaring, but right now it's not doing a whole lot. So but I have a video of what it is doing, so let's take a look at that. Yeah, okay, coming right up here. Okay. So that's a pretty little spot. So those are some of the kinds of things that you can see in the gorges when there's not much waterfall, but you can see the rocks and you can see the pools, and it's much quieter and pretty cool. So once again, this is Walk in the Park, walkinthepark.tv to see us online. This is public access television in Ithaca, New York. Time Warner Cable Channel 13. So, but you can see it anywhere in the world, anytime you want, at my video blog at walkinthepark.tv. So now we're going to go over to Watkins Glen, New York, and take a look at the water over there. I think there's a little more water. Watkins Glen, look at it, it's in the lower left there, at the southern end of Seneca Lake, Watkins Glen State Park. And we're going to take a look at a beautiful video by a gentleman named Tom Baker, who has made this video from his time in the park and put it to his own music that he composed and performed himself. All right. Okay, that's very beautiful, and we thank Tom Baker for letting us use that. The waterfall that was coming from sort of above and in the right, that was Cavern Cascade, one of the two waterfalls you can walk behind in Watkins Glen Gorge Trail. There was more water, I suspect. This was taken, I don't know, within the past few weeks, I guess, but I suspect that there's less water there now. And that was still quite a bit less water than you hope to see at Watkins Glen. Well, we're now going to go back to the Ithaca area to Treman State Park. And you can see that just to the well, below the center of the picture there, and go into a section of the gorge called the Devil's Kitchen. And back in the 1800s, there was a hotel actually up in the upper park in Robert Treman State Park, and they named sections of the gorge with these sort of ominous sounding names to give them a dramatic effect. So this was Devil's Kitchen, which is just upstream from Lucifer Falls, Lucifer being another name for the devil. So anyway, Devil's Kitchen, we're going to look at that. Another short video to show you Devil's Kitchen. So that's Enfield Creek in Robert Treman State Park, which tends to have more reliable water than Buttermilk Creek does, or maybe even Taughannock Creek. So I think there's more water there still than there is at Taughannock. Actually, the one that's, I think, from my experience, Enfield Creek in Robert Treman State Park and Fall Creek and Ithaca Falls are the most reliable streams in our publicly accessible gorges, and probably Fall Creek, being the largest sub-watershed of Cayuga Lake, is the most reliable. But I'm sure that's low now. You can't get into Ithaca Falls right now during normal working hours because they're doing construction on the Lake Street Bridge, but after 5 o'clock and on Saturday and Sunday, you can get in to see the falls, but the trail is closed on Monday through Friday until 5 o'clock. So now we're going to take a look at a video. I'm a member of the Friends of Robert H. Treman State Park, and a number of years ago we made a video about the park. This is Lucifer Falls when there's a lot more water. We made a video about the park that we now show in the old mill in the upper park, and you can go in there and see it. Problem is that not everybody wants to stand around and watch the video, which is fairly long. There's a lot of segments to it, so I'm breaking it up into segments that will then be available online via our website, tremanparkfriends.org. It's not up there yet, but it will be soon. And then you can actually look at it with your smartphone in the park if you're camping there. So this is the first one that I've extracted. We're going to show it's about trails. So let's take a look at that.
The best way to explore the rugged and wild gorge sculpted by Enfield Creek is along the park's trails. The 2.5-mile Gorge Trail offers you an intimate experience within the gorge's narrow and rocky section for half a mile. You'll pass 115-foot Lucifer Falls before hiking the remaining 2 miles under the canopy of a forested canyon alongside Enfield Creek. View this dramatic rugged glen from above on the 2.5-mile South Rim Trail. Amid the gorge's forested rim, several overlooks offer you striking views of the gorge, including this view of Lucifer Falls, located a half mile from the upper entrance to the trail. You can take the Red Pine Trail from the park's upper entrance through a thick red pine forest on the gorge's north rim. This trail connects to the Gorge Trail after half a mile. For 3 miles, the Finger Lakes Trail intersects the park. The park map will show you how to access the trail from the camping area in the lower park or from Woodard Road in the upper park. Capture the gorge's beauty to its fullest by taking one of 3 trail loop options. For a 1-mile round trip, enter the Gorge Trail from the upper park. After half a mile, the trail will connect with the South Rim Trail for a half-mile return. Though this loop is just over 1 mile, Reserve 2 hours for this hike, as you will want to take your time climbing the 7 staircases leading to the gorge rim. If you are able, it is worth the steep climb to reach this view of the gorge from an overlook at the top of a staircase. There you will find this plaque honoring Robert Treman and his wife Laura. For a varied experience, hike the Red Pine Trail from the upper entrance and return on the Gorge Trail. Reserve 1 hour to take this loop at a moderate pace. If you're looking for a longer hike, reserve a morning or afternoon to hike the lengths of the Gorge and South Rim trails. The trails can be accessed from both the upper and lower sections of the park. Enjoy the beauty of Robert H. Treman State Park. And for your safety and protection of the park, please remain on park trails and swim only in the designated swimming area. Please stay back from the cliff edges. Do not pick wildflowers or remove other natural objects from the park. Keep your dog on a leash and make it no longer than 6 feet. This is a carry-in, carry-out facility. Bags are provided throughout the park to take your garbage with you.
Okay, so we're going to have more segments like that in future shows, and they'll be going up online, and you'll be able to look at them at your leisure individually at TremanParkFriends.org. I'll get that up online in a future show. So that's about all we've got to do to show you today. I'm going to finish off with this beautiful sunset picture. I believe this might even have been last night. This is actually taken by a friend who lives down in Virginia Beach, at the bottom end of the Chesapeake Bay, where the James River meets it in it's an area called Hampton Roads. That's actually where I was born and lived as a little kid, was in the Hampton Roads area. So it's a spectacular sunset to end off our show today. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.